The majority of music in most styles is in the time signature 4/4, which means that in each bar of the music there are 4 beats. The top number here is actually the thing telling you how many beats are in the bar, 4 in this case. And the bottom number is telling you which type of beat is in each bar. 4 represents quarter notes, so the time signature 4/4 is literally indicating that there are 4 quarter notes in each bar of the music. Particularly in pop music, 4/4 is almost the default time signature. The vast majority of popular music is in 4/4. In my research for this video, I actually took a sample of 450 pop songs from the last 70 years, and I found that 94% of them were in 4/4. This time signature is so common, in fact, that it's often called common time. But why is 4/4 so common? Why does 4/4 sound so satisfying and natural to most people's ears? Well, I've been thinking about this for a long time now, and I've not really been able to hone in on a definitive answer. So in the end, I did what most people do when they need an answer to a complicated question. I asked Reddit. And well, Reddit responded. So in today's video, I'm going to summarize and explore some of the best arguments that people put forward, and maybe we'll be able to get that little bit closer to some sort of truth about why 4/4 is so common. So one of the first things I noticed when I was reading through the different responses to this question is that most people's arguments fall into one of 2 camps. There's the innate camp, people who are suggesting that 4/4 innately sounds nice to human beings. And there's the culturally learnt camp, who are suggesting that 4/4 is actually not a natural preference, it's something that we learn due to the culture in which we grow up in. So let's dive into the innate camp first and see what they have to say. The innate camp suggests that there is something about the sound of 4/4 which is innately pleasing to human beings, something in our evolution, something in our minds that just makes 4/4 sound natural and right to us. And one of the main arguments supporting this idea is that we like 4/4 because we are bipedal. Bipedal just means that we have 2 legs, so the idea is that the rhythm of our walking and the rhythm of our running is in 4/4. Well, immediately you might be thinking, wait a minute, bipedal surely means that our walking is in 2/4, not in 4/4. But for all intents and purposes, I want to consider 2/4 and 4/4 as effectively the same signature here. I know that 2/4 has a strong weak pulse and 4/4 has a strong weak medium weak pulse, but more or less any music that's written in 4/4 can fit into 2/4 if it needs to. But anyway, the idea with this bipedal argument is that humans respond to rhythm in a very physical way. After all, we describe rhythm as something you feel, something that's tactile. If you play music to someone, regardless of whether they're a musician or not, they're likely to start tapping their foot or moving their body to the music. This ability is called entrainment, and it's something that only a handful of organisms can do. But why did humans evolve to move in time with music? Well, one of the reasons could have been to improve our ability to walk or run. Running is a very human activity. Humans are actually the second best long-distance runners in the animal kingdom, behind only the husky dog. We may not have been able to run faster than our prey, but we were certainly able to run for longer than it, so we could run it down to exhaustion. So what I'm saying is, from a survival point of view, prehistoric humans had a big incentive to become better runners. And one way that they could become better runners is to improve their ability to feel the rhythm of running, that left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right feeling. Another argument from the innate camp is that 4/4 is the time signature in which our body ticks. Our breathing, for example, naturally creates a 4/4 rhythm with its in, out feeling. And our heart beats in sets of 2. Now, I find this heartbeat argument slightly less convincing, because really the rhythm of a heartbeat could fit into various time signatures. There's nothing exclusively 4/4 about it. There's one last argument from the innate camp that I wanted to look at before we move on, and that's symmetry. Humans like symmetry. We like things that are symmetrical. We find people more attractive if their faces are symmetrical. We like to design things that are symmetrical. Put short, symmetry is satisfying to humans. And 4/4 is symmetrical. It divides evenly down into smaller, even subdivisions. And that's not to mention that most music, whether it's in 4/4 or a different signature, is often grouped into sets of 4. It's often grouped into sets of symmetrical bars. So on a macro, middle and micro scale, music in 4/4 is symmetrical. So we've heard the argument suggesting that 4/4 is innately pleasing to human beings, but a lot of people who responded to my comment on Reddit were actually saying that a preference for 4/4 is completely culturally learned. It's due to the culture and the music which we grow up in. The time signatures that we prefer, the time signatures that sound pleasing and satisfying to us, depend on what music we heard whilst we were growing up. And those like myself that grow up in the Western world are almost always exposed to music in 4/4, so our ears become attuned to the sound of it. And then people in the West who grow up to become songwriters and composers will then write music in 4/4, further perpetuating this love of 4/4. In many non-Western cultures, there's often less emphasis on 4/4. In fact, many time signatures that Westerners would consider odd or unusual, like 11/8, 9/8, 5/8 or 7/8, are often far more commonplace in everyday music. For example, in the musical traditions of Greece, Turkey, Bulgaria and other neighbouring countries, many traditional songs and dances are based on very non-4/4 time signatures. And you can see from these clips that these people seem perfectly comfortable moving their bodies and dancing in time with these unusual time signatures. I'm sure if you played this music to a room full of Westerners that you'd soon wind up with an empty dance floor. So you now might be thinking, okay, so these cultures don't use 4/4 as much in their traditional music, but what about in their pop music? Well, some artists I found, particularly the older, more traditional artists, did tend to use odd time signatures instead of 4/4. However, just like in the West, the bulk of their pop music is in 4/4. The thing is, regardless of each culture's musical traditions, most pop music around the world has been massively influenced by Western pop music. Really, mass-marketed commercial pop music is a Western invention. For example, the pop music industry in Turkey actually started out in the 50s with what they called light Western music, which was Turkish language covers of Western pop songs. So maybe an obsession with 4/4 is a Western thing. But that still doesn't answer our question, why is 4/4 so common, even if it's only common within the Western world? See, the thing is, if we look at the traditional music and dances of Western cultures, we don't actually find any particular bias for 4/4. European folk dances often use 3/4 or 2/4 time. If it really was the case that modern pop music with its 4/4 obsession really did derive from this traditional Western music, then maybe we would see a lot more 3/4 in our pop music. But the thing is, I don't think that our pop music derived from here. I think that our pop music came from a different type of traditional music, from the blues. The blues, along with the styles that developed out of it, like jazz, R&B and rock and roll, all almost exclusively use 4/4. And it's this music which is the real foundation of what we call pop music today. Whether it's punk, disco, EDM, country,
but I can easily understand how you could easily take my man, but you don't.
hip hop,
You know I'm mobbing with the D.R.E.
all of these styles have inherited their 4/4 gene from their shared great-grandmother, the blues.
Way down the river, oh, she can hear the big boat when she blows.
So have we answered the question, why is 4/4 so common? To me, it's a mix of those two camps really, of the innate camp and the culturally learned camp. I think that there is something innate about 4/4 that makes it sound nice. But I don't think that accounts for the fact that almost all of the music we hear is in 4/4. I think that's more of a cultural thing. And what it leaves me wondering really is 4/4 here to stay? Is 4/4 in the future going to become less popular? If you think that in the 19th century, 3/4 was actually quite popular. So maybe right now we're in the era of 4/4, and in the future we're going to see some different time signature take the forefront. Let me know in the comments what you think. Why do you think 4/4 is so common? And thank you as always to all of the amazing patrons who make this channel possible, including the names on screen and these wonderful people. Andre Sainz Diaja, Andrew Brown, Andy Deacon, Austin Barrett, Bob McKinstry, Chris Cabell, Christopher Ryan, Daniel Long, Daryl, Darren Harvey, David Eford, FD Hodor, George Taylor, Golf House, James Ko, J.A. Kockensparger, Jay Vasson, Jonas Soderstrom, Justin Vigor, Melody Composer Squared, Nancy Gillard, Orlando Bernard, Patrick Gonzalez, Paul Pazel, Peter Dunphy, Roger Clay, T. Newport, and Tim Beaker.
He was trying to figure out how to play grooves in 13, and he asked me, how do I do so? So I quickly explained to him how things were done, or how you should go about trying to play a groove in 13. So I'm going to give an example for you guys of how I explained to him how to play a groove in 13. So basically it's going to be like this, count it off, and it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. Mother, ain't nobody playing grooves in 13. You can't get paid playing grooves in 13. Ain't nobody going to shake their booty. That's why you broke. Play 4/4, mother. And that's how you play a groove in 13.